A song that has been a signature tune for more than a decade now on the show. We're still mourning the very sad departure kababa, music legend Babu Joseph Shabalala of Ladysmith Black Mambazo, leaving us with music that will be part of impilo zethu forever. Siyabonga kakhulu Mshengu Shabalala. Ulale ngoxolo baba. Asikwamkeleke mbukeli to yet another exciting edition of your favorite consumer affairs show, Yilungelo Lakho, it's your right. Sinilethela lona bukhoma la kumamba phambili SABC 1 eMzansi for sure. Mina-ke uyazi nguMajalu Alisha uNhlanhlo igama. Asingabe sisachitha isikhathi mbukela, sihlale nje phezu kwendaba yethu yanamhlanje. In modern day communication, data ifana negolide, especially for a nation that still pays astronomical costs in order to communicate. Now, data has become an inseparable part of our lives as it enables us to communicate with our families, friends, as well as the entire world, also enabling us to apply for jobs, do our simple banking, our shopping, access to government services, and a host of other things. But the high cost of data in South Africa prevents many from these interactions.
Celso Rafael uthengisa i-airtime kanye ne-data. Lelinye lemakhasimende akhe nguLumkile Machaya. Lumkile akasebenzi, ngakho-ke imali imvela kancane. Noma kunjalo, uthi utama ngayo yonke indlela ukuthi athole idatha kude ade ufuna umsebenzi aphinza achumane nebangani bakhe.
Ngisebenzisa ama-data la asebenza from 12 midnight until 4. Yiwo la ahleze engena efonini uma ngithenge airtime nge-10 rand. Kodwa wona awasebenzi during the day, asebenza midnight.
Yes. And between 12 and 4 sukuvukile wena?
Sometimes ngiyavuka, sometimes ngingakwazi ukusebenzisa because isonline.
Lumkile usanza kuthenga i-airtime ya 10 rand. Le airtime imniketa idatha yamahala kanye nema-minutes ekushaya nga-12 ebusuku kude kube ngu-4 ekseni. Noma lokhu kubukeka kububele benetwork yakhe, uthi kuyafana nje neligonvane leliluma liphuphuthe.
Sometimes ngisana ukufeel ukuthi ngathi ngawasebenzisa immediately mara angikwazi because manje yila asebenza midnight. So I had to ukuthi ngimele midnight sometimes ngwayeke azoziphelela.
Noma kunjalo uthi ngenxa yesimo sekweswela imali lena indlela lengcono.
If you buy manje, you can use it in 10 minutes aphelile. You can use it in 5 minutes aphelile. Sometimes I'll buy out if akufakeli lento ze 5 rand, data the 5 rand. Alikho probably khona 10 rand, 12 rand actually.
Celso uthi emakhasimende akhe lamanyenti asesimeni lesicishe sifane nesalumkile.
Mayelana ne-data, yiphi bundle abantu abajwayele ukuyithenga kakhulu?
WhatsApp bundle.
Imalini?
Imalini kuni ya 25 ni ya 17.
Ilasta isikhathi esingakanani?
7 days. Ilasta for 7 days. Uyisebenzisa after 7 days if isasekona iyakhala.
Labo ke labakhonako bathenga idatha yenyanga. Yona ke ibita kanje. 100 megabytes ubita 29 wemarandi kuwo onke ema networks. 300 megabytes ku MTN ubita 60 wemarandi. Ku Cell C ubita 75 wemarandi. Bese kuthi 500 megabytes ku Vodacom abite 99 randi. Ku Cell C abite 100 randi. Ku Telkom abite 69 wemarandi. 1 gigabyte ku MTN ubita 149 wemarandi. Ku Vodacom nakhona abite 149 wemarandi. Bese kuthi ku Cell C abite 150 wemarandi. Ku Telkom abite 99 wemarandi. Kepha-ke bathengi bakhala ngekuthi ithi iphela inyanga ibe kadze yaphela le data. Ubabona nje laba bathi intengo ye data ibahlele ensanyeni. njengoba balapha batewuchuma ku-Wi-Fi yamahhala lesetindzaweni letinyenti lapha eNingizimu Afrika.
If you buy maybe 30 rands data, you can only chat maybe in Facebook for 2-3 days, then it's done. And if you come here, you can go anywhere in, still not done.
We don't buy data because it's just opposite our school. It's no use we don't buy data because data expires in 2-3 days and then it's finished.
There'll be those school projects where we need, those internet stuff. Yeah, so mostly we come here for the Wi-Fi. We won't buy data because it's expensive.
I usually use data for my schoolwork. We're doing research about it, so we had to do research. It's basically a project. Yeah, I don't buy data because I don't have money this month. My mother don't have money.
We come here every day or maybe 3 days a week because we download the movies for Nigerian. So we can't afford to buy that data.
When I started, it was like every day. I'd usually clean in the house, then come here at 12 and leave here sometimes at 2. We use it to talk to our families that are far. We can't normally use it for WhatsApp, Facebook, or just come here, use it, it's free.
I'm coming here to search a job. Yeah, if I find a job, I can go there. And then I can come to check email. Which one he answer me? He said, if I see, I can check and write again, and then I can come back. And if you find a job, I can't come here.
It's beneficial saving data using public Wi-Fi. I find it useful because you spend more time, online chatting, and you save more also, into your pocket.
Akungabateki ukuthi idatha ibaluleke ngetindlela letehlukene njengekuchumana, kufuna umsebenzi nekufundza. Kungako nje i-right to know emacembu etembusave kanye nemalungu emphakathi akhankasela kwehliswa kwentengo yedatha. Lo mkhankaso sowungenelwe na i-Competition Commission lebekele i-MTN ne-Vodacom umncamla jucu wekuthi kumele letinkampani tehlise intengo yedatha. Umbuto ke mbukeli kwekuthi engabe tiyawudala nkhomoni nakufika lesikhathi lesibekiwe. Leli phupho lekwehla kwentengo yedatha litawugcina lifezekile yini? Zinhle Dlamini Mugabe, Yilungelo Lakho.
Sibonge kwintokazi uMadlamini umadli uZinhle Mugabe lapho ngalowo mbeka sididiyele wona manje ke mbukela ukhuluma kabanzi ngodaba lethu la namhlanje sisamele uLazo Lakati ovela kwinhlanganiso iRight to Know akafiki but I understand uzobe sijoina in no time siphinde futhi samukele no Mr James Hodge yena ke umele iCompetition Commission of South Africa and of course inyamazi uButpaseka Maleka yena ke uphuma ku-Independent Communications Authority of South Africa phecelezi ICASA bantu bakithi. Gentlemen, good afternoon. Welcome to the show. Thank you so much for joining us. Hello, James.
Hi.
How are you doing today?
Very well.
Pasaka kunjani? Ngiyaphila mfethu. Well, James, looking at the inside very quickly before we get to understand what the Competition Commission, really does. I mean, we're hearing entrepreneurs there saying that he goes all out that because for his businesses to thrive, he needs to have data. So the only data that he can afford is the cheap data that he can only use from midnight until 6 o'clock or until 5 o'clock. So that really that means that he's losing sleep and because he has no choice. And then, I mean, the other people are saying that even if you do buy those data packages, they are depleted within seconds or minutes or days, as you saw the school students. Yeah. But we know the students, we know why they're probably depleting data early. It's because of all those chats. And I mean, James, South Africa is the leading country when it comes to the high cost of data. What do you say about all these things?
Look, I think the consumers have exactly highlighted a major problem in South Africa. And I think what the data inquiry that the Commission undertook identified was that not only are data costs high in South Africa, but actually they're mostly high to the poorest of the poor.
Yeah.
And so whilst I may get Wi-Fi at home and at work and get good prices on contract, it's those who actually can't afford it who are punished with the highest prices. And I think as your insert sort of aptly showed, this is now essential. It's essential to do business. It's essential, to look for a job.
Absolutely.
You apply online. Even getting into school now in Gauteng, you need to apply online.
Yeah.
So, it's sad to see that people must sort of stand in the street trying to tap into some free public Wi-Fi because the data that they're getting is not cheap enough.
And mind you, James, that public Wi-Fi is not always safe. We're always hearing about not necessarily using it. It's not a preferred choice of use because those people can have access to very private information on your phone as well.
Exactly. So, the Commission put out a set of recommendations, one of which was in the long term for the state to start rolling out public Wi-Fi in key spots where people can easily access as they commute or go to schools. But fundamentally, in the short run, we've got to address the high price of data, especially the smaller bundles, cheaper bundles, and where we focus on monthly, because if I'm buying for a day, it's gone after that day.
Absolutely.
And to hear that children can't communicate with their parents, that's not a good state of affairs.
It's not a good state at all. Now, Pastor, I guess siqale la futhi siqale phansi ukuthi siza ukuthi irole ye-ICASA mekufika kule ndaba yokuthi hey ayasiqeda phela ama providers ngokuthi basibizise i-data. Yini eningayenza nina ezilokhuzana i-ICASA?
Okay, siyabonga. Kuningi esingakwenza njenge-ICASA because we have a mandate in terms of the Electronic Communications Act to ensure that we protect consumers against harmful business rules and all those other issues. So there are ama interventions esiwafakile ukwenza sure ukuthi siyazama ukuthi sehlise inani le data or the price of data. So those interventions are meant specifically to ensure ukuthi the cost of communication is reduced to the lowest levels. So yes, we do have a mandate and working closely with the Competition Commission. We've got an MOU where we discuss some of these things.
All right, okay. But how can affordable data then help us develop as a nation? And how important is it to bring down the cost? And hopefully ulazolo uzobe sekhona la e-studio yenako uvela right to know siza ukuthi mhlambe kulama campaign ekade bebhizi bewaphusha how far are they, because sizwele ukuthi last year kade sikhuluma ngale topic kwaphinde kwashintshwa i-deadline by a month, but all that and more coming up shortly after this break. Welcome back. Yilungelo Lakho. Now, the president also weighed in on the high data costs during the State of the Nation address. I guess Zuguti, what he had to say, Mbugeli.
The competition authorities are now working towards a resolution with the large mobile operators to secure deep cuts to data prices across prepaid monthly bundles.
Only prepaid monthly bundles, James. What is your word on what the president just said? Your reaction, sir?
Well, it builds on our recommendations coming out of the inquiry.
Yeah.
And as I said, it's partly about the structure of pricing and where the high costs are. So for contract pricing, generally that's a little at a better level.
Yeah.
And it's really the prepaid customers that are hurt most, and often the smallest bundles.
Yeah.
So you saw from the insert that you're paying maybe 15 cents a megabit for a 1 gig package, but more than twice that if you're buying only 100 megabits. So, and that's the difference. And obviously it's lower income consumers that are having to buy the smaller bundles. They don't have 150 Rand to lay out immediately to buy a gig. So the focus has firmly been on prepaid for that reason. Monthly bundles is probably a primary focus just because that gives you continued access throughout the month. So if, you've heard from consumers that if I buy a daily, then it expires.
Yeah.
And then I've got nothing the next day because I'm not able to afford. And so buying daily is not a solution to being online, being part of the digital community. So those are two focuses. But, if the price of monthly comes down, it also affects what what operators can charge for weekly or daily or hourly bundles because they're all related in price. So bring down the one and it should hopefully have a ripple effect through.
Absolutely. Pasaka nithini nina ngokuthi umongameli shuthi isifikile le ndaba kuyena uyazi ukuthi ngempela abantu basafarisha ngokuthi kuthengwa ama data prices but siyazi ukuthi kwakunama recommendations ama providers kwabibona abashona lena le bengafuni ucomply. Do you think now ukuthi lento isitabliwe as part of ilokhuzana state of the nation address? Do you think mhlawumbe izoshintsha indlela ama providers acabanga ngayo so that they also play ball with ama lokhuzana ama recommendations?
Kufanele ukuthi kube noshintsho ngoba siyazi nathi ukuthi ukuxhumana is very important in South Africa. And then siyabona ukuthi nama trends ashintshile abantu abasafoni kakhulu abantu sebasebenzisa data. So there must be something something has to happen there ukuthi kube noshintsho. And at the same time nathi from our side as the authority we are doing everything we can to try and address some of these issues. I mean, we published our regulations called the End User and Subscriber Service Charter last year. So the intention of that regulation was to address the issue of transparency because in most cases, our network providers are not transparent in terms of the way basebenza ngakhona.
Usicharge kanjani?
Usicharge kanjani ngapha ne data yakho mhlawumbe uyayisebenzisa mayiluku wena usacabanga ukuthi usenayo kanti siphelile and awazi ukuthi iphelile sebasebenzise time yakho. So the intention was to address all those issues first just to make sure ukuthi we deal with the issue. I mean, there are other processes that are ongoing from our side as the authority also because at the same time, even though we also consider the Competition Commission report, we are also looking at trying to get to the bottom of the source of the problem, other than just getting a solution now, but also the source of the problem. I think that's that's the intention of our process here, mobile broadband services market inquiry. And
as ikhasa paseka ngicabanga ukuthi what is the real source of the problem? Ama providers or bani? Well, it's in the pricing as we've just mentioned.
Yeah. Kwamanje, the process is still ongoing. We've outlined our preliminary views on those on the broadband market service inquiry that we are doing.
Yes.
So what we're trying to establish is to establish things like your roaming, for instance, because the two biggest network operators are the ones that are the small ones are roaming on their network in most cases. So that could be a problem. You never know. So we have expressed those views, and then we're waiting to hear what the service providers are going to say and the stakeholders in general.
Okay.
Because you might find those roaming agreements, it's expensive to roam. That's why at the retail level you're paying more because they must cover the cost. So those are some of the things that we're trying to look into. Okay. I mean, the issue is spectrum food. The issue of spectrum is also very important. We can talk about it later on, but it's also very important because our network providers have always been saying it's phone access to spectrum because what we're doing right now, we are refarming the spectrum is now so to provide a broadband services. Now the process for that spectrum is coming. So let's see how those processes go.
I mean, James, maybe let's go back to the scope of your data market inquiry. Maybe give us a bit of enlightenment into what were some of your biggest concerns going into this inquiry, and was it encouraged by activists, by complaints, or was it an initiative of the Commission itself?
Well, actually, the inquiry was called by our minister in economic development at the time, now DTIC. But it was in response to public pressure. And that's where I think an important point that needs to be made is if the public are vocal and make their views known, then government can respond.
Absolutely.
So the consumer awareness, consumer voice is crucial in all of this. Even finding a solution, it's crucial because the operators will stand up and listen if people start moving networks and the like. So, and if you're upset with your operator, then they need to listen. So the voice of the community is important. Voice of politicians is also important. As you heard the president, we're looking to develop a digital economy, move forward. We all talk about smart cities, 4IR and all of these things. It doesn't happen unless data is cheap. And the important thing is, you heard there from an entrepreneur, data is also a source for business. And so if we're going to get growth in the economy, if we're going to stimulate entrepreneurs, then data also needs to come down because there are services that could be provided, new business that could come, but also just helping small business engage with suppliers, engage with their customers. They do that through data. And we heard plenty stories of entrepreneurs that switch off their data for an hour, then switch it on again to see if there's a mail.
Yes.
That's not the way you can conduct business. So the economy is also being hampered by this, and that was a big concern for us. It's not just that consumers are paying too much, but that the economy is actually being held back.
Very interesting point there, James. All right, Mbukela siphinde futhi sisishelele ngasayitolo siyaqhubeka nendaba yethu sixoxa ngokuthi hey bakithi yaze yabiza i-data. Awusakwazi nokuWhatsApp umuntu wakho lapho uthi good night ngoba phela iphelile i-data oyithenge ngo-5 rand ekuseni. It's done by the end of the day. Yilungelo Lakho, we're back shortly after this. Welcome back, Mbogeli. What are your views about the current cost of e-data, and how will it help if the data prices were brought down? Singathanda ukuzwa ngawo, ungashayela ucingo 011-714-6918 or 714-6919. consumer@sabc.co.za is our email address, and of course we are available on our social media networks. We do have Mr. James Hodge from the Competition Commission, as well as Ubaba Paseka Maleka ovela e-ICASA. Bazama Mbogeli ukusihlazela ukuthi iyiphi bona imizamo abayenzayo as these two independent bodies ukuthi bazame phela ukuthi bakhulume nama-network nama-service providers ukuthi kwehliswe ama-cost e-data. Nginayo-ke insizwa online evela e-KZN, i-homeboy lena. Put gift KwaZulu Natal, siyakwamukela insizwa ohlelweni. Umbuzo noma umbono?
Ngiyabulela kakhulu Mthunzane.
Kunjani tata?
Ngiyaphila kunjani?
Ndiphilile tata.
Hey mama, inkinga kakhulu indaba ye-data because ukuyithenge ye-hour after uyithengile futhi izawuphela phaya ngo-12 ebusuku, but within u-10 okanye u-10 pha imalanga ufumanisa idatha seyiphelile. Iyangixaka ukuba yenzeka kanjani.
Okay tata, and xa ufonela i-service provider yakho ithini pha xa uyixelela ukuba ugqiba uthenga i-data ngoku isiphelile?
Baye bangixelele mama ukuba inoba i-problem kwifowuni yakho, but ibe ifowuni ingenankinga.
Okay tata. So mawucinga wena tata, if kwehliswa ama-cost e-data iza kunceda njani leyo nto wena?
So izanginceda kakhulu mama because ngingumuntu ofunda ngayo. Most cases ngifunda online.
Okay, all right, Tatu Gift siyabulela kakhulu ngaloko. Well, basically Gift is saying, James, that you buy data and it's depleted within minutes. You have to go use the nighttime or night surfer bundles. And then if you call, I'm asking him if he calls the service provider, he says, well, they always blame something on the customer's phone, like maybe you've got background apps refreshing and so forth.
Yeah.
So it is quite a concern because, I mean, were these some of the complaints that really compelled the Commission to also institute this data market inquiry?
Yeah, I think there's some consumer issues and consumer education issues around. You're absolutely right. Your smartphones start eating data, and I think consumers need to be educated about that. But the reality is, and this is partly why we've looked at some free data as well, is just to have a phone with an app. It requires to update. It requires to do some of that. So if you are to engage in the digital world with a smartphone, you are going to use a lot of data. And so that's why data prices must come down in that sense.
Let's focus on the inquiry now, James. I know we're still talking about the scope. I mean, maybe tell us how long it was, who formed part of the research, and also let's get to the nitty, the most important part of the details. What were those findings and recommendations?
So the inquiry went for 2 years. We had multiple rounds of engagement with the mobile operators, as well as ICASA and the community that wished to sort of come and express, so Right to Know and others, access for affordable internet, all made representations. We have powers to collect information, which we did from the operators, in order to interrogate certain things. So we're told spectrum is the thing that matters most. We accept that it has some effect, but it's not the primary cause. And in essence, our conclusion was that two operators have market power, and that data costs are too high and they need to come down, but also that the pricing structure in the industry was what we termed anti-poor, that really the poor paid the highest prices, and inexplicably so. So we know that maybe if you buy a little more, you get a discount, but the extent of the discounting was phenomenal.
And you'd also find, James, I mean, these are the complaints that, I mean, I've gone through that. You can buy a lot of data and you end up not using all of it and it actually expires. It's not carried over.
And that's the thing. There's, Paseka mentioned transparency previously.
Yeah.
Transparency is important to know. If I'm buying, say, 500 megabits and only using half of it, I need to know that.
Yeah.
So ICASA is addressing some of this through their end user and subscriber regulations, but the Commission felt that there was a need to go much further on this. So transparency is another theme, the structure of pricing on data, but also then, the issue of almost free access to essential services. That this, after all, is a national resource spectrum that's being used by the operators. And we need people connected to government. We need people to access educational resources. This is all part of being a member of society, even accessing news, being part of debates. All of that political debate has moved online now. So to be a citizen in a digital world, you need to be online.
Absolutely.
So it was finding ways to, in a sense, ensure that that happens through a mixture of price drops, but also free data or zero rating of data sites.
Interesting. Well, let's welcome now Mbukeli. Before I go to those callers, Usisi Yilungelo Lakho ovela ke na kwi right to know. Ntokazi, thank you so much for joining us. Siyakwamukela ohlelweni. Osichazele kabanzi. I mean, we know ukuthi right to know has been very active in terms of ukupusha lama initiatives ukuthi kwehliswa ama data. Nipushwa yini sisi wami? Osichazele kabanzi.
Thank you so much for having me. First of all, ngiyabulela kakhulu sisi wami. The one thing is that the right to know is a grassroots movement, right? So we're made up of smaller movements, we're made up of smaller organizations. And so when it comes to the plight of your lower income homes and the poor, it actually hits us hard because it speaks to us.
Yes,
so now the interesting thing is that Right to Know has three sort of departments. And the bigger one is communication rights. So that is what led us to actually advocate for data costs falling. It's because of the right to communicate. Everyone has the right to communicate. And we noticed through research that we did with the Link Research Center at WITS, that actually lower income homes have to often choose between bread and data.
That's true.
And we need to understand that the right to communicate doesn't only end up on social media. It speaks to employment. It speaks to actually participating in society, as my colleague here just said. And also it speaks to being an active citizen in participatory democracy, because these days there are online platforms to report sewage bursts, to report water and sanitation.
In fact, news are breaking on social media nowadays.
Exactly. So now, without that right to communicate, you're cutting out the majority of the country. I think it's very important to highlight it is the majority of the lower income homes, and they're being cut out from basically being a citizen of South Africa. And so that's what pushed us into actually advocating for data costs to fall as a beginning measure, because the ultimate call is for accessible Wi-Fi and accessible internet for all in South Africa.
I was about to ask ukuthi bengathi wonke umuntu kumele abe ne-access to Wi-Fi sisilazola. Let's quickly take Umpilo eKatlehong. Mpilo, thank you so much for staying on the line. Awuthi nje qaba ngombuzo wakho and then sizokuphendula misibuye ekhefini.
Yebo.
Kunjani Mpilo? Kunjani?
Ngiyaphila.
Siyaphila nsizwe. Singakusiza kanjani namhlanje?
Hey, nami ngiyakhala ngedatha man.
Hayibo, bayenzeni idata yakho?
Hey, masifaka idatha liyadura.
Yeah.
Liyadura. My recharge, mostly I'm unemployed right now, and when I try to apply, most of the time they recommend us to apply online because we're moving to the digital world. So when I buy data, it quickly depletes without me doing everything that I wanted to do.
I can imagine, Pilo, and I mean, ukusenda i-CV uzothola ukuthi it's quite a huge file. Awukhona ukuyisenda ngaleyo data encane oyisendile, so uzothola i-message, and after isikhathi ekutshela ukuthi mhlawumbe i-CV yakho ayizange izihambele bhuti.
Yebo, kwenzeka kanjalo. So hey, nami ngisupporta yona le movement data must fall.
Okay, all right, insizwa siyabonga kakhulu. Hayi uyazizwela ke nawe Mbukeli, nawe ungasishayela ucingo 011 7146918 consumer@sabc.co.za. sikhona futhi lapha kuma SMS lines as well as ku Facebook. I will be taking some of your Facebook messages ngibuya. Usisilazola usafikile uzositshela kabanzi ngamanye ama initiatives that i-right to know isiwathathile ukuthi isebenzele nini abantu ukuthi hey uyamuza ukuthi kumele wonke abe ne-access to i-Wi-Fi, including me. Siyabuya emva kwekhefu. Bukela ke sizwe ukuthi iziphi mhlawumbe ezinye izinto ezikhathazayo mayelana nokubiza kwe-data. Ingcingo zethu ivuliwe 011-714-6918 or 714-6919. Ungasithumela i-SMS ku-33721 usithole ku-Facebook or consumer@sabc.co.za. Sisilazole, khawusixelele xa usiva ama-callers like ompilo bexelela uba first of all I'm not employed. We know South Africa is currently like youth is sitting on with the highest unemployment figures. So bazo apply kanjani because abantu bayabaxelela uba xa ufuna ukusenda i-CV you need to do it online.
Definitely. I mean, ikholeka mpilo ibe buhlungu because it's a struggle esivayo each and every day. And it's a struggle that nathi even in the right to know we have sort of situations whereby kufuneka data, kufuneka ama airtime nana in terms of the work that we do.
Absolutely.
And ufumana ukuthi ama costs are too high. Right? So I can understand that and when we communicate with the DOC, when we communicate with your ICASAs, is that you don't understand that the majority of the country that you keep saying that you want to take out of unemployment cannot be employed if abanayo access to internet, abana access to e-data. Because just as James said, it is true that, in fact, it was called an anti-poor pricing structure by the Commission of Inquiry.
Yes.
That poor people, and in fact, if you buy a smaller data, you are paying more. Right? So, and honestly, we can't expect everyone to be able to buy 1 gig, which is 149 when we started with this campaign. You can't expect people to have that money. The last 20 rand you have, instead of bread, you are buying data so that you can be able to send your CV.
But maybe we keep throwing the word spectrum. Mhlawumbe awuchazela abantu emakhaya ukuthi mesikhuluma nge-spectrum sichaza ukuthini mayelana kahle kahle ne-data.
Okay, i-spectrum sikhuluma for me to be able to talk to you, there must be a pathway.
Yeah.
Esuka kumina indlela ethize kusuka kumina yakwena.
Yeah.
So that thing we call it spectrum.
Okay.
Fana ne radio, for instance. For me to listen to radio, I need to tune into 97 points ban. That frequency there, that's we use spectrum for you to be able to have that access.
Okay.
So at the same time, for abantu ukuthi bathole i-service, for instance, it means somebody needs to have a spectrum.
True.
And then wamanje bazokutshela ukuthi no, we need access to spectrum asikho, but they're able to reform it, like I said earlier on. But also, in order for us to have access, there must be a competition. So a competition in the sense there must be other people that are providing the same service. So if you introduce more competition, our prices are definitely going to go down. So there's these 3 operators or 4 operators that are there, and then they are fighting amongst themselves in terms of pricing. So that's why I'm a price angry, because others have got what you call a significant market power that you're talking about. So in order for us to deal with that, you must be able to address it through licensing more people and ensuring that they have access to that spectrum.
But do you think, Lazola, that will solve the problem? Ukuthi sibe na more competition, because already lama 4 providers is now. I mean, among themselves, I'm sure each one gets a substantial piece of the pie every year to a point where they don't have to charge us exorbitant data prices.
Yes. I mean, competition is part of it.
It's healthy.
It's healthy.
If it's healthy.
And it's good to bring in more people so that you can force the bigger operators to pull their prices down. But also in terms of now, currently, if we're looking at the new spectrum licensing sort of opportunity, still that part, I think it's 116, is only available for 5G.
Yeah.
And you can imagine now how much is going to be auctioned off, how much it's going to be. You're still going to have your same bigger operators access to that. So I think we need bigger measures aside from competition, whereby we can actually give access of that, even that higher level spectrum, your 5G, to your smaller networks, so that we can create competition across the board.
Absolutely. Yeah. All right, James, let's take a look at this graph, because I really want you to talk to us through this graph. This is now, we can see, of course, that is MTN. And of course, this is the different countries in Africa. And as we started the show, James, I did mention South Africa has the highest data cost prices. I mean, let's look at that graph. That is absolutely shocking, James.
Yeah, and I think, Alicia, what's more shocking is that is MTN in those countries. So this is a South African company that is charging at least half or if not less, in every other country in which it operates compared to South Africa. And whilst we appreciate there's some differences in coverage and how much spectrum, that's not the full story.
Yeah.
And the Commission looked at the profitability of these operators and found that South Africa tended to be the most profitable country for both Vodacom and MTN.
Look, we're looking at Vodacom now, and what's the difference from the previous graph that we've just seen, James? Is there a difference?
No, there's not much difference, except that in the DRC that costs are high as well, but that's a difficult operating environment. So, you know, that's not the benchmark we would typically use. We're looking at across even neighboring countries, in Lesotho, Zambia, Mozambique, all Vodacom countries where we see much lower prices than we do here.
And then, James, just from you, I mean, do you support this call that maybe if there was more competition as the Competition Commission, do you support the call that if there was more competition, healthy competition that was introduced, then we would see the data prices basically fall?
Look, we do. And so if you look at our inquiry, there were 3 sets of recommendations. Yeah. The first said, right now, there's not enough competition or constraints on Vodacom and MTN. So they can price much higher and be much more profitable. And so that's why we called for an immediate drop in prices. What we also said is that just the way the industry has developed has meant that the structure of prices is anti-poor.
Yeah.
And so industry needs to fix that. That's not just those 2 operators.
Yeah.
We're also asking of Telkom and Cell C to change the differential between small bundles and big ones to zero rate public interest content, so be it government services or educational, and also to look at some lifeline daily data so people can even just communicate within the family.
Yeah, because, I mean, it's shocking, James. We're talking about schools now. You have to apply online to get to school, but there are digital schools where people are getting taught digitally. What do you do when you get home and you cannot access that research through your smartphone? Let's quickly take Lungisa from the Eastern Cape on the line. Lungisa, thank you so much for joining us on Uhlelo. Namhlanje uthini wena ngedate?
Molweni sikunjani?
Siphilile tata, ninjani?
Sikhona sisi. Nami ngiyakhala ngale data le. Le data ayigqibi neveki. Bengisandithenga u-1 gig nge-R30. Kangayigqibi iveki sisi. So into ngifuna ukuyibuza mna apha ku-James, ne?
Yebo.
Ndifuna ukubuza izothi ibe nini le nto yoba idatha iyehla, sifuna idate nenyanga uba ihla nini ngiphi idate.
All right, but Lungisa, I'm going to get those facts. James, he basically wants to know when will the data prices be slashed, and he wants to know when and what is going to happen around that time, and can they get reimbursed for the previous data that they've been charged so exorbitantly. Mbukeli, we're going to be addressing umbuzo kabhuti uLungisa when we come back. James has heard that question. Now, if you want to ask us a question, 011-714-6918 or 714-6919. We're back shortly after this. Mbukeli director Yohani ngitshela ukuthi sesidliwe inja ke isikhathi Mbukeli, so sesongena kumbuzo kabhuti Lungisa. James, people want to know the times and dates. No willy-willy or dilly-dallying about this issue. When are these data prices going to be slashed? Because we do know that you were involved in this initiative and the deadline was actually pushed back by a month. So what happens at the end of this month or at the end of the deadline? Expectations, should they be high?
Look, Alicia, I think, you know, we're in discussions with the mobile operators and they have been productive so far. But one cannot say with any certainty where we're going to end up. So the recommendation was drop prices within 2 months and then put in other measures like transparency, zero rating within 3. We've been engaging with all the operators, but obviously with the Christmas break that interrupted it. And we're looking at, can there be a package across all of these? So 3 months is really the most relevant deadline. But the recommendation was, in essence, that let's see if we can reach agreement and all move forward on this. Otherwise, we move to prosecution.
But James, did you see any encouragement from the providers that they're willing to play ball and come to the table and say, listen, we're going to be transparent about this. This is how far we can go in terms of these amendments and so forth, and findings and recommendations that you tabled to them?
So these are the private engagements we have between the operators and the Commission. And those, I'm not at liberty to talk about where we are at this stage.
Don't give us the whole story, James. Is there a willingness from them to at least listen to some of your concerns?
I think there's a willingness. That's why, as we said in our press release, the engagements have been productive so far.
All right.
So I think, people have been heard.
All right, so let's not put you on the spot any further, James. Let's leave it there. Mbukeli, siyazi ukuthi i-deadline izofika at the end of this month. Only then sizokwazi ukuthi mhlambe kuzoqhubeka necala kuzoqala phansi ne-litigation or kuzokwehliswa ama-prices. We'll keep you posted right here on Yilungelo Lakho. Our final call, uMasego from Pretoria. Sakwamukela Masego, uthi qaba njengombuzo.
Good day, ma'am. How are you?
Good, thank you, Masego. How are you?
I'm very well.
I'm very well. What's your concerns on data prices?
I wanted to iron out that service providers should take into consideration that there are people who are from different backgrounds, and then they should not consider that all people can afford data. Some people can afford data, and then some people can. And we're living in the age of social media now. To apply, you have to apply online and stuff like that.
And I guess this ties in, siyabonga kakhulu Masego for that comment. I guess this ties in with investigation yenu, inquiry yenu, Paseko, ukuthi wonke umuntu kumele akwazi ukuthi communicate at a certain cap price, of course.
Yeah. And also what is also important ukuthi they must always close our applications, because I hear a lot of people are saying data, but now we must also remember the fact that some smartphones these days, so apps that are running
automatic,
automatic updates as well. So make sure that you close those, because if you don't close them, your data is definitely going to go.
And it's very difficult to prove that a dispute when it comes to data with a service provider.
Yeah.
They're going to tell you, you probably have something running in the back. And you're like, but I switched it off.
Yeah, but you can always lodge a complaint with them if you believe data in as much as you know to fight data. You can always question it. Detail website this is how long you've stayed.
Okay.
You must always ask for those things.
Okay.
And they must be able to give it to you.
All right.
And also remember, from our perspective as ICASA, like I said, we want to check the root causes of a problem than just to give a solution. In as much as we want data to reduce now, but you must also, I don't want to talk on behalf of our operators, but you must also consider the fact that input costs, maintenance costs, or infrastructure. Those are the things that we're trying to find out from our operators to say what goes into this for you to be able to charge this much.
Absolutely.
And then we are able to come up with another better solution to say this is how you can deal with these matters.
All right. Sis Lazon, maybe I was with you, with Irai to know, what are some of the most intermittent and urgent amendments in Funugutini Ibone when it comes to Ilokuzana ama high cost data and Togas?
I think one of the biggest things is that, as we submitted in the Competition Commission inquiry, is that there should be an amount of data given to lower income homes.
Okay.
And it should be enough. That amount is still to be discussed, because we also need it to be efficient. We also need people to be able to apply for the jobs.
Okay.
We also have said that should be given as sort of like the right where you get free electricity, right? And we have also requested that the most urgent thing is that like calling to your school, to a child's school, calling hospitals, participating in democracy, your government sites, that should be free for citizens so that you could be able to be part of society. But I think the bigger conversation, when are we going to have free internet in South Africa? This has been a promise for a very long time. We can talk about data costs going down, but the bigger objective at South Africa, when are we getting Wi-Fi? When are we getting free internet in households? Because Uguti, at the end of the day, we can't only rely on data to mitigate unemployment and citizens being locked out of democracy. We also need to look at other alternative networks because we are moving into the fourth industrial revolution.
Yes.
We really need to be sure about what we are saying.
And then, James, I suppose maybe your closing comments, why then is it so necessary to regulate this market and industry?
Well, I think, you know, let's say we bring down data costs today, but I think the point is that that is the start. We need to fix competition. So the data inquiry had a lot about how to do that. And that does mean that maybe we got to pry into wholesale agreements between operators and the costs. And that is a form of regulation, whether it's ICASA or the Competition Commission. But what we've also called for in the data inquiry is a rollout of free Wi-Fi. So as much as we may ask private companies to start providing some free data, the state should say, along with water, electricity, municipalities should have free Wi-Fi available in certain locations, whether it's commuter points, municipal offices, government offices. That's needed urgently.
All right, when Pasek, Val, 2 seconds.
I send some submissions to our processes so that we are able to address the matter completely.
All right. Well, Mbugeli, that is where we leave it for today's show. Thank you so much for ukuthi joining namhlanje. Bese dinga idaba lama data nizwile nomongameli lapha ekhuluma kwi State of the Nation ekhuluma ngokuthi kumele kwenziwe something ngalezi zinto. Iyashi right to know ukuthi hey yonke South Africa kumele ibe ne-internet kade sathenjiswa ke thina salalele sathenjiswa kona sabambele ntulo. From Okakajali Ntokazi ngiyabonga. Thank you so much for joining us. And to my guests, that was of course Upaseka Maleka we-ICASA, Mr. James Hodge, Chief Economist at Competition Commission, no Yilungelo Lakho, we're right to know. Mbugeli, we are live on Monday right here on SABC 1 from 12 to 1. From myself and the entire team, nisale kahle.